go.
Welcome back from our slightly jangly, but maybe nutritious break. This session is on believing in God from a Buddhist and Jewish perspective. And one of our more beloved teachers, Basha Hirschfeld, will be leading our discussion. She's been a spiritual seeker, beginning when she learned the Shema and told her atheist parents she wanted to be Jewish, and ending in her current full engagement in both the Jewish and Buddhist practices. She's a student of Pema Chodron, and through her of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, hope I didn't bangle that, who brought the teachings of Shambhala to the West. We're thrilled, Basha, to be able to receive your wisdom. And I'm gonna pass it to you very gently.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and thanks for organizing this. Thank you, Sherry, and everybody else who's doing this. I have to say, when I realized what I had taken on, I thought, how foolish can I be to be taking on the topic of God? But after Geshe talked about revelation, which is a very nice introduction to what I'm doing, I feel a little bit more relaxed. But the reason I'm doing it is because as a Jewish person and a Buddhist person, this is where the rubber meets the road. How can you be both if there's God in one and no God in the other? So that is where we're going to go. And I invite you to join me in my journey as I try to explain how this can be. So let's see if I can share screen and go for it. Okay, slideshow. How's that? See everything?
Perfect. It's perfect. Thank you, Basha.
Yes, yes, it's good. Here we go. Do we believe in God? Let's see. I'm a practicing Jew, a daughter of atheist Jewish refugee parents, and a student of Buddhism, particularly through my teacher, Pema Chodron, and her teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. I started to realize there was perhaps a conflict when I was told I should take refuge as a Buddhist. It's like the Buddhist version of a bar mitzvah. And I went actually to Sylvia Boorstein, and I called her because my rabbi of blessed memory had her phone number. I said, how can I do this? How can I take refuge as a Buddhist? And she says, when you take refuge in the Buddha, you're taking refuge in a person who woke up. And when you take refuge in the Dharma, it's the teachings. And in the Sangha, that's the community of people seeking to understand and know the truth. As opposed to taking refuge in the refrigerator, in Netflix, in friends even, and family. In other words, we go to these things and we try to gain comfort. We try to have a secure ground, something to hold on to, and they don't really serve us. I mean, the cheesecake is good for the moment, but then it dissipates. And Netflix is nice and comforting, but it ends. So these three jewels, they're called the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. These three are what we can take refuge in. And Sylvia Boorstein said, there's no conflict. It's just waking up, the teachings and the Sangha. It is a big commitment, but does it prevent me from being Jewish? Saying I take refuge in the Buddha does not mean I worship him as a god, but that I take refuge in the fact that a human being persevered trying to figure this out. What are we doing here? So the story of the Buddha's awakening is worth telling. It's kind of a metaphor for what happens to us when we are realizing suddenly, I'm living in a very protected place. I'm really not experiencing the directness of life. So Buddha was a person who actually lived about 2,800 years ago. When I started teaching, it was 2,500, but I don't know if I've lived 300 years, but now it's 28. His story may be a parable of our lives and our awakening, but he serves as an example of a true seeker. As a young man, he was a prince, protected by his father within the walls of his compound, given whatever he wanted in the pleasures of life. But he was curious. What was beyond these protective walls? This could be our story. It's a story any one of us could have, being curious about what is reality, what is really happening here. And so he left his protective walls, and you see here he is looking at a man who was sick. He'd never seen sickness, and a man who was old and bent over by time and age. A dead person carried on a stretcher there. He'd never known about death. He'd been completely protected. This shocked him. And then he saw a monk and he thought, aha, I'm going to leave home and do this. And so he left his home, Lech Lecha, just like many of our ancestors did. Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, all left. They had the last time I heard Rabbi Alan Liu of blessed memories teach, he taught on Lech Lecha, on how you have to leave where you are, your home that's familiar, and strike out in order to get revelation, to link to Gesher's talk, in order to get to revelation. And surely the Jews also, Lech Lecha, they left Egypt in order to find Mount Sinai. So the Buddha lived with other monks trying all sorts of methods to get enlightened, beating himself up with whips, starving himself, living in the forest with nothing, but he did not reach enlightenment as he had hoped until he remembered an experience he had had as a young boy when he was sitting under a tree and was so relaxed and seemed to have peace. And so he decided to find a Bodhi tree and sat under it. And he sat and he sat and he sat. Many doubts arose and many temptations. It is said that as dawn was breaking and he had finally seen through the veils, he was attacked by maras, or destructive emotions and thoughts. And this last one was the hardest. They challenged him. What makes you so confident? What do you know? How do you know you're enlightened? They threatened him with self-doubt. And I just want to say here, that's exactly what happens when you're sitting on a cushion. You're thinking, what the hell am I doing? How is this going to do anything? You're attacked with self-doubt. And the Buddha was too. And he answered them by pointing to the earth and saying, the earth is my witness, meaning I am grounded here and the unfolding nature of reality is my witness. This is the mudra you'll see a lot in Buddhist statues of touching the earth and pointing down with one hand to the earth. The earth touching mudra, it's called. You'll see many statues of the Buddha with this earth touching mudra. It's my favorite. It refers to that moment when the Buddha woke up to reality. The earth is my witness. I am grounded here in the unfolding nature of reality itself. So there's some examples of Buddhist statues that have that earth-touching mudra. To be a Buddhist, one takes refuge in the three jewels. The Buddha, meaning simply someone who didn't give up seeking, who let everything inform him, who did not color what he saw with what he wanted to see. Now, this is a very important point that happens a lot, that we project what we want to see rather than allowing what is to come and penetrate us. The Dharma, meaning the teachings, and the Sangha, meaning the community of people devoted to seeking. Or, as Pema says, my teacher Pema, a bunch of cowards who decided to look into it. Buddha was not a god, although it seems that many people seem to worship the Buddha as God. They burn incense and ask for favors, just like other religions do. This is a picture of, I think it was Dubai. Here's Thailand. Looks like it's pretty religious. It looks like they're worshiping God, but in fact, they're meditating. And this Buddha statue is a reminder that this is possible, to sit and have revelation, have understanding. Some places have huge Buddhas, like this one. Pretty overpowering. Let's take a pilgrimage to Indonesia, where I was more than once. The first time I went here as a tourist. This is the biggest Buddhist temple in the world, in Java, Indonesia. It's like several football fields. It was unearthed. It was in a pile of dirt. And it was unearthed and found. This huge temple was found. And Raffles, the governor, became the governor of Singapore, found it. And then it was slowly taken apart and put back together by the UN and became a national treasure, part of the UNESCO World Heritage, so that no future or current actions can disturb it. This reminded me of a quote from the Bodhisattva vow, which says, just as with a blind man finding a jewel in a heap of dust, thus somehow bodhicitta has been born in me. So in this case, physically, in a huge way, a pile of dirt, and in this pile of dirt, this jewel of a Buddhist temple was found. Look at that. It's amazing. And here, if you see my pointer, here's the people walking, and they walk up. And if you're a tourist, like I did the first time, you walk up these stairs and up these stairs and up these stairs to the top, where all these stupas of Buddhas are inside of those stupas. But the second time I went, I was a pilgrim. I was a Buddhist already, and I didn't go up this way. I went around, all the way around, every level. And as I went every level, here's a tour guide showing where you could go straight up. But as I went every level, there were carvings, first of life, like the 7 deadly sins, greed, avarice, killing, all, jealousy, all of that, carved in the stones. And then the life of Buddha. And here's just a few examples of that, carved in the stone. So you walk around and see these carvings, and you begin to see, oh yeah, first you're immersed in what we call the 7 deadly sins, or the passions or the kleshas of life. And then you get the life of the Buddha, and it gets less and less busy, sort of like Dante's Inferno, then goes to Purgatorio, and finally to the, I forget the name, anyway, Paradiso, sorry. And so this is how it is at the Borobudur. You go up, and it gets less and less busy, less and less full of detail, and more until you come to this beautiful top. And at that point, you have sort of the moment of, the moment of openness. And you physically feel it and observe it and know it. And this is like a parable or a metaphor or physicalization of what we go through in meditation, what we go through in life to discover the divine. It's just a beautiful place on the top. And in every stupa, there's a Buddha. Here's one. And here's another. So the Buddha taught that we suffer. We suffer because we are attached, meaning we get clingy, we get fixated, we fixate on things. And there's a way to end our suffering, and that is the path of meditation. Oops, shoot. Well, anyway, I think I skipped one. But Pema says, only to the extent that we expose ourselves over to annihilation can that which is indestructible be found in us? So what does she mean? Does she really mean we have to kill ourselves? I don't think so. So we're exposing ourselves, our egos, our sense of who we are, a fixed sense of who we are. We're letting it get knocked over by insults, by disappointments, by all the tragedies of life, the unexpected surprises of life. And then we find what is indestructible. And this to me also points to what the Jews called God and the Buddhists call consciousness, awareness, being here now. What do the Jews say? Is God a concept? Is God a figure? Is this God? Or Gaia, the mother of all life? Another image of Gaia? Or Astarte, which maybe Shoshana will be talking about, the graven images that we were told as Jews, for those of you who read When God Was a Woman, get rid of graven images. These were the graven images. They were female. They were female images. So we got rid of them, and we're left with this. Yud He Vav He, the word that means God. This is called the Tetragrammaton, and Gesher does a great job of really going into these letters. I'm going to just touch on him. But if you can see, it says at the bottom, the 4 letters, the name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause to become, or to come to pass. In other words, the word here that we never say, it's unpronounceable, means becoming, that which is becoming, the unfolding of becoming. And that is very close to what Buddhists are looking at when they look at the changing nature of life. The Yud is number 10. It's a little tiny letter suspended in midair and singular in form. It signifies the oneness of God, who is indivisible, and the smallest letter pointing to humility. And it just hangs out at the top of the, the word, pointing to the, just sort of saying, God is becoming manifest, or the divine is becoming manifest, just a hint of it. And here comes He, which represents the number 5. It is comprised of the letter Dalet, you see the Dalet and the Yud, and it represents, first of all, it has a sound ha, like, which is the breath. And it was really interesting for me to see that it denotes femininity, because it is the suffix that makes a word feminine. The divine presence in the letter He signifies the Shekhinah. Who knew all these years? There she was, right there in the middle of the word for God. And here's the Vav, which to me, well, it says it means hook or and, but look at this last one. In the front of the word, it transforms past into future or future to past. Again, it's pointing to becoming, was to is to will be. And it also to me is that line from heaven to earth, like a lightning rod manifesting into earth. And finally, the final He, often that feminine principle. It's also the numerical version of 5, value of 5, and represents 5 fingers, 5 senses, and 5 dimensions, and the 5 levels of the soul, which we talked a little about with Gesher. The letter He is often used instead of writing out the word for God. And it also has that definitive thing, as Gesher mentioned in his class. When you have He, it makes it defined. It's not anything, any cup, it's the cup. And Abraham got a He in the middle of his name and became that person. And Sarah also. that important person in the history. It made it definite. So there's that definition at the same time as the letter is very open and airy and spacious. So this is what we've got. We don't have graven images. We've got this. Another name for God in the Hebrew text is this phrase, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, I am that I am. It's the name of God when Moses said, who is this? When he spoke to the burning bush, the name of God revealed to Moses in Exodus. In other words, the unfolding nature of reality itself, no different than the Buddhist view. Aha, we're back. The unfolding nature of reality itself, which can be discovered by meditating. A Jewish koan that I like to tell is the story of Rabbi Robinson of blessed memory. When a Jewish couple came to see him, they were troubled. We are Jewish, they said, but we don't believe in God. Don't worry, said the rabbi. I don't believe in the same God you don't believe in. That's a good joke, right? And it's pointing to that we get this, that when we think of a concept of God, of course we don't believe in it. Of course it's not something you conceptualize. So I don't believe in the same God you don't believe in. God is not a concept, but it helps us to realize we are not the creators of the universe. And now when I was contemplating this talk I was going to give, I realized God serves a great function in our religion because it helps us be less self-important, which is one of the goals in Buddhism, to get us away from thinking we are so important. It's the me show. And it is humbling to have a moment to realize we're part of a bigger space, but that we are one with all of creation. As my favorite prayer, the Shema, tells us, which I was learned this when I was 8. Somebody said, you're Jewish, you need to learn the Shema. And that's when I learned it. And as somebody, I think it was Judith, said to me, I always thought hear meant H-E-R-E, not listen. But the Shema means listen, pay attention. You who struggle with existence, all of it is one. Here's a picture from the Sistine Chapel of God giving life to Abraham. But I love it. I think if you look at
Adam.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. It says it right there. Thank you, whoever's paying attention. I was just checking. You're still awake. Good.
Sure.
God giving life to Adam. And when you look at this picture, what is the most magnetizing part of this picture? It's the gap between those fingers. In my opinion, it's all about the gap. Look at that gap between the image of God and Adam receiving the life force. I think the center of this picture, the place of the greatest energy, is the gap between their fingers. This is like the gap between the divine and the worldly. It's the gap we experience in meditation when we notice thinking and come back to being right here. Anybody who's meditated with me knows that that's the technique I teach. That you sit with your breath, and when you notice that you're thinking, there's not a problem, but you come back. And when you come back, there's space. So these are Buddhists meditating. And here is one of my favorite quotes from the Reformed Prayer Book. God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthest star. This expresses to me the great longing in my heart, the longing in every spiritual seeker's heart. And here it is, as close to us as breathing, yet so seemingly hard to reach. And there is our key, our key to finding out. The sound of the breath. Yud-He Vav-He is the sound of the breath. When people ask me, how do you connect Buddhism and Judaism? I say, well, the name for God is the sound of the breath. It's not anything you can pronounce. And it means the past, present, and future of to be, the unfolding nature of reality itself, which is a term that Rabbi Robinson taught me. So the conclusion, if God, or Yud-He Vav-He, is the sound of the breath and refers to the unfolding nature of reality itself, and if Buddhists sit in meditation, feeling the breath as a means to experience that, then I can be a Jewish Buddhist. I can take refuge in the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, my community. The Buddha, the teacher, the Dharma, the teachings, and the Sangha, the community. Thank you for listening. Hi, my sister's here. Cool. So it's time. It's lots of time. See, my husband was worried I'd be too long, but I have lots of time for questions, comments. Open it up right now. You just unmute yourself, or how are we going to do this, Sherry?
Let's just have people unmute, and it'll take me a minute to put you up on the screen, but I will be looking for you.
How did I do, guys?
Hi, Basha. I had a quick question.
Yeah, good.
Thank
Peter?
you so much. First of all, thank you so much for your presentation. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Answered a lot of questions for me. When you were doing the numerical value of the Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey,
Yes.
I don't think you, or I missed the numerical value of the Vav. Did you give us that?
No, I didn't. Is Gesher here?
Oh, okay. I was wondering, sometimes you add up the numbers
It's
and
six.
the
Vav
it's
is
six.
six.
Say what?
Vav is six.
Love is.
Oh,
So it's good that you asked that, Greg, because I read about the 10 for Yud, and then the Hey is 5. So there's some teachings that says, you know, the divine then split in two, the two Heys to help bring the divine down to the earth. That's just, you know, you can play with it as much as you want. Susan, do you have a question? Susan Dregge?
Drege, no.
No, okay.
But
Hi.
thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm
And-
delighted to see that you're teaching.
Thank you, Susan. Nice to see you at all, completely. So anybody just
A
unmute?
comment, 6 on 6. That is the number in the tarot or something else for love. 6 is for love. So as you say, what sends down like a spear from, say, the heavens,
Yeah,
really, it is love, because
Yeah.
that is the eternally holding of all pieces, I think.
yeah, wonderful. Yeah, there's a lot in those 4 letters. There's a lot to, I mean, Gesher's teachings on the letters was so brilliant. Not so much today, but in his longer elaboration that many of us were in. The letters are amazing. What
Looks
they-
like Martha and Tim have a question or comment.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, please. Go ahead.
Basha, great job.
Hey,
Hey, kind of a recovering Christian, right? But also Buddhist, just like you in your community. And I figured out, I wondered where this quote came from. It's John 1:1 from the New Testament, it said, and almost all the translations have it like this: in the beginning, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God.
I know. Isn't that
Cool,
cool?
huh? And
That's so cool.
thank you for throwing in the goddesses. I really appreciate that.
Right. Yeah. In the beginning, in the New Testament, it says the word was first. And I like that. I really like that. Even though in the Old Testament, it's Bereshit, God, in the beginning, God created was the beginning. Yeah. There's a lot to say about it. I can't do it, now, but there's a lot about that.
New translations do not
Judith?
just say in the beginning. And Rabbi Robinson always said, he always translated it the way I'm starting to hear it from newer translations, which was when God began to create.
Can God, say that last part again.
When God began to create.
When God began to create. Okay. Thank you. We have some great scholars here, some people who know so much more than I do. That's wonderful.
Basha, Chris
Basha.
has his hand up.
Who does?
Chris Parker.
Okay, Chris.
You need to unmute yourself, Chris.
First off, thank you very much for that presentation. Very enlightening. I just note that in connection with that New Testament quotation, that Genesis begins with creation by the voice. God speaks the universe. Let there be light, and light was, etc., etc. So there seems to be a common thread here.
Thank you so much. Is that Chess making a lot of noise?
Yes.
Chess, why don't you say what you have to say?
Oh, hi, thank you. Today I was looking for some synonyms for the word and in Google, and one of them was an African American slang word. When they say word, it means truth.
Yes. Good.
When the African Americans want to use slang and they want to say that's the truth, they go word,
Right.
word.
Right.
So I really, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chess. That's a great comment. Alyssa Hirschfeld, my namesake.
Yeah. Oh, let me come on here.
Hi.
Hi. So first of all, thank you. That was great. I love that. I love that. And just two comments. One is, in all my years of studying, I never thought about the fact that the haze in God's name made it feminine. So I just really want to thank you for that.
I was excited when I saw that in the what I looked up. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, that just really opens up a lot. So thank you. And then I also just wanted to share in light of what Rabbi Michael Robinson said. One of my favorite quotes that Rabbi Michael Lerner likes to say is the God you don't believe in doesn't exist.
Right. That's right. Same kind of idea.
Same idea.
Pointing to our need, our tendency to conceptualize and make it concrete and fixed. That is not what God is. As much as we would like to have something to hold on to. And that's why, when you see, like, people say, well, the Buddhists they're worshiping a God. Yes, people tend to physicalize what they can't hold on to. This is just very human. And so we have goddesses. Mother Mary is a goddess, we have all these things, and we're physicalizing that which is beyond, beyond our ability to describe. And it's not like wrong or bad, but it's good to know, to really understand and not be afraid that, oh, I don't believe in this concept. Well, either do I. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. More? You have more to say or?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think, a lot of people, a lot of us also get stuck in a childhood conception of God that doesn't evolve, in terms of like an old man in the sky or someone who's judging or punishing. So
Yeah.
I think that's part of it too.
Well, kind of when I use the word God, that's what comes to mind right away. So I avoid that word. But when I use the word Shekhinah, which for those of you who aren't Jewish means the feminine, the female principle, which comes from the ground up, not from the sky down. I can feel that. I can feel that. That's a primal feeling. And I love that the Shekhinah is buried in, like you said, in the Yud He Vav He. She's right there. So good news. Dorothy's iPad.
The iPad is speaking. The Greek for that part is en arche, ein hologos. In the beginning, ein was the word. Kai, hi logos, ein pros ton theon. Kai, hi logos, ein was God.
Okay.
So that is a physicalization, as you were just saying. I just realized the word, and the word is a sound. Hear, O Israel,
Yeah.
God is one.
Listen.
The sound, and then there's the word Om, which is the universal primal oneness of sound,
Right.
so to speak. And then, so in the beginning was the word. It's a lot of things in there. And it appeals to me and maybe others. You can feel the word, and that the word then is God. So you can feel it and hear it and feel it inside of yourself.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you. Nicole, I'm so glad you're here.
Hi, Basha. I'm wondering if your experience with Buddhism helped you release that childhood concept, of God, man in the sky with the beard, and or find your way back, to the divine. Like, did that journey intersect and kind of parallel, or do you want to say a little more about?
Thank you for that question, because that's something I wanted to say in my talk and I forgot that Buddhism, my practice of meditation, my practice in Buddhism directly informed and deepened my understanding of Judaism. Judaism to me is like the hidden, it's like hidden under all this. It comes through the rituals that we have. The rituals are honoring time and honoring all the changes of life, but sometimes it's so hidden you don't get it. And with the Buddhist practice, I actually was able to connect. So once I was doing the Barhu in temple, and I suddenly felt this connection to the divine that I have to say came from my practice, my Buddhist practice, my meditation practice. Yeah, it dissolved that old idea. That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Glad you're here. Because I missed your class. Now you know why. Let's see. Is that Greg or Peter?
Peter, yeah.
Yeah.
Does Judaism offer any kind of mindfulness practice? Any meditation?
As I was saying, Rabbi Alan Liu of blessed memory always included meditation. Rabbi Michael Robinson always included meditation. And at Ner Shalom, we always do some kind of guided meditation. But it isn't the kind that I do, which is completely, without imagining things, just being with your breath, being with your breath. But we have something called the Amidah in the middle of our service, which is a silent prayer where you could recite, if you're Orthodox, you recite a lot of things, but in our more liberal reform world, we're invited to do whatever, just to connect to the divine. Some of us go outside and look at the sky and music. There's usually music playing, like Sheridan played this the beginning of this Shavuot service. And it's very open to have a time of connection. And it's called the heart of the service. So there is that. Everything in Judaism is there for the Buddhist. Shabbat is a day of complete rest. It's a whole day of meditation, if you will, if you want to take it that way. Do nothing, just be.
Weren't there some yogic Jews like in Eastern Germany? I forgot what they called them. They were kind of crazy guys that would go off by themselves and meditate. I forgot what they called them.
Baal Shem Tov. And
Baal Shem Tov.
Hasidic rabbis.
Hasidic rabbis. And they lived in the Ukraine. So they're all from the Ukraine. I didn't know that until now. But yeah, all those mystics were from the Ukraine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you. I thank you for your presentations. Very brave of you. You did a great job.
Very brave of me, exactly. So let's see, Greg, and then Judy, and then Ruth.
Okay, I'll be quick. I don't want to take up too much time. Just as a practical kind of a question, I've been kind of trying to resolve some of the Jewish practices as far as like keeping kosher and some of those other observances. So with Buddhism, and I was just curious, how do you reconcile those kind of things? Do you practice both? Do you keep kosher? Just to, I guess, a personal question.
I don't keep kosher, no, but I do observe the holidays, and you should come to a Seder of mine. It's a very Buddhist Seder. It talks about leaving that uptight place into freedom, into openness, from narrowness to openness. I use every holiday is full of connections to what I've learned in Buddhism. I just connect it all. But no, I don't keep kosher particularly, but I find that most of the rituals in Judaism are really beautiful. Like Geshe was telling us about, when you wake up in the morning, there's a prayer. There's a prayer when you go to the bathroom, thanking that all the things that should open, and all the things that close. You know, it teaches appreciation of your life and your body. There's a lot there.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I have a rabbi here, he's Orthodox, and every time I go to service, I just can't identify. I lose myself in a lot of those. I respect them, but I just can't seem to identify.
There's a lot of different kinds of Judaism out there that are more up to date, I say. But anyway, flexible. And you come to Mercury. We're on Zoom, Greg. We're on Zoom. Jess, I'm going to pass to Judy. Okay, Jess, just because Judy hasn't spoken yet. Go ahead, Judy. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Oh,
good. You're unmuted. You're unmuted. Yeah.
so thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to share something. I have started trying to do more meditation, and I was on the Israel tour a few weeks back, and I've been to the Western Wall many times, and this time, like, instead of having to go up and touch the wall, and it was not something that I was feeling pulled to do, but instead I sat in the plaza there in a chair and meditated and just did my breathing. And it was such a powerful experience. It was like, wow. I mean, I've had some spiritual experiences at the wall, but this was like right up there as when I was like praying Hebrew prayers. There was just something that happened. It was really cool. I don't know. I just wanted to share that here.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I wanted to share something. My sister, who actually is here, and she's waving her hand, so I want to call on her. she and I, whenever we travel together, we stop and meditate. And I remember those places better than any other places. We stop by a river and meditate, or by some rock, wherever we are, and we just sit for a while. And it really deepens our, experience, because the mind is rushing all the time. Thank you. So we have we have 8 more minutes. So I think we can get to everybody. I'm going to jump to Ruth Mencken. I'm going to let Susan Hirschfeld talk first, because it's late for her. Come on, Susie. Let's hear from Sister Privilege.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. I missed I missed some of it, but I want to just address the meditation question. One of the greatest Hasidic, one of the greatest Jewish philosophers, the Ari, was part of the vanquishing of Jews from Spain during the Inquisition, and they went and they scattered in the east, in the eastern part of the world, meaning like back around Jerusalem and stuff, and I guess Turkey and everything. Anyway, he meditated. He went on a like a several year, I think. I'm sorry, I'm so tired.
I know. Get it out.
What's it called? When you go,
pilgrimage.
when you're a recluse, right, on an island.
Recluse.
Yes, and then came out of this seclusion with this incredible wisdom that he shared with the people at that time, and still remains one of the great philosophers, and actually came up with the Big Bang Theory. If you know anything about that, he actually came up with the Big Bang Theory, basically, in his own way. So just that meditation, I think, is a big part of any sort of very heartfelt religious experience, or spiritual experience, I should say. And so I just wanted to share that.
And I think wandering in the desert qualifies as well, because if you're wandering in the desert,
yes,
you have a lot of time on your hands. Nothing's happening.
Right.
Thank you, Suze. Great to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for staying up. Ruth Mencken, come to the fore.
Oh, Ruth. Hi, Ruth.
Where are you?
Sorry, my video isn't working, so I'm here though. I just want to thank you, Basha Barbara, for your teachings. And I love that we've been friends for so long. Our children grew up together, got bar mitzvah together. And I love that I could keep learning from you, both as a Jewish person and as a Buddhist person, because I practice Buddhism also. And I think it's so interesting that so many of the teachers, for instance, at Spirit Rock, like Sylvia Bornstein, are, as what we call them, Jewbus, that they're Jewish people who have that kind of deep understanding on some level, and then they become Buddhist teachers. And I think the way that you parallel.
Jews are questioners. We answer questions. Questions.
Right.
We struggle. It's just a natural thing for us.
And I love that the parallel that you did in your talk about the parallels between Judaism and Buddhism, because it made a lot of sense to kind of listen to that talk. And that, at one point I was one of the teachers at Shomrei Torah when our kids were getting bar mitzvah. And I remember telling Rabbi George that I kind of felt like a hypocrite, that I was, working at temple and helping the kids through their bar mitzvah, and I wasn't sure if I believed in God. And Rabbi George said, no one can tell you there's God. You have to figure that out yourself. And that was like the greatest. That's kind of like what you were talking about, Rabbi Robinson, too. And it's such a wonderful gift to know that there's so many different ways to practice. And so I thank you for your teaching.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. Barbara Les McCaffrey.
What I wanted to say more than anything else is my appreciation that this class has been luminous and accessible in ways that sometimes our more esoteric offerings aren't. And it was just such a refreshing way of having you highlight your understanding of the way in which the two traditions intersect. And I wanted to let people know that Basha and Reb Judith have been teaching an almost every other month conversation class to discuss their Jewish and Buddhist perspectives. And hopefully some of you will join us for those. And also to say that we have almost all of the recordings of Gesher's sessions on the Jewish letters, which went for, I think, 2 years worth. And so if you're interested in accessing those recordings, you can get in touch with me at learning@nershalom.org. I'll put it in the chat, and we can arrange for you to be able to have access to them. But really, thank you, Basha. This session has been really delicious.
Oh, you're so welcome. I think Adrian has her hand. I think we have time for. Yeah.
The room is going to automatically close in about 40 seconds, but let's use those 40 seconds.
Go, Adrian. I can't hear you.
Before religion, there was spirituality. And both of these traditions point back to our spiritual inclination.
Thank you.
Perfect.
You did it in 40 seconds. Bravo.
40 seconds.
18 seconds left.
Thank
you, Basha.
Thank you, Basha.
Thank you, Basha. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
So good to see my Buddhist friends here. I'm so glad you came, everybody.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Basha.
I want to come
Thanks
to
for
your Seder,
announcing it this
Basha.
morning.
Things.